You've been invited to tea at the Mad Hatter's, but as you sit down, he yells,
"Time's up!"
And cookies and sugar and headwear and tea goes flying. So of course the only sensible thing to do is gather the best collection of hats. Welcome to Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Melissa Delp.
And I'm Kevin Delp. Hats is a set collection game for 2 to 4 players. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes to play.
It's published by Thundergryph Games, and they sent us this copy to review.
To set up the game, shuffle the deck of cards and place one card on each space on the board. For a 2-player game, you leave the last space empty and remove a couple of suits from the deck. Then every player is dealt 9 cards.
You'll play 8 turns during the game, and on each of your turns you'll play a card from your hand. Your goal is to have the hat collection that scores the most points.
Now we're going to explain a 4-player game first and then look at the changes for a 2 and 3-player game. For a 4-player game, you have 2 teams of 2.
On your turn, you have to play a card from your hand and add to your collection. You can either play one face down directly from your hand into your collection as a black hat, or you can play your card to the board to add the hat you exchanged it with to your collection. When you play a card to the board, you can exchange it with any card that's the same color. The card you take goes face up into your hat collection.
Or you can exchange it with any card that has a lower value than the one you played. The card you take goes face up in front of you.
Another additional thing you can do on your turn, and this is optional, is to trade a card with your teammate. The card has to come from your hand, not your collection, and you can't say exactly what it is that you're trading.
Now play will continue until all players only have one card left in their hand, and then you'll count up the scores.
Any cards that are face up in your collection that match the color of the card in slot 1 is worth 1 point each. Cards that match slot 2 are worth 2 points. And so on through 6. Any colors not on the board will not score.
If there's more than one card of the same color on the board, then you only score the lower position. The other ones are turned face down.
Then you'll score 1 point for each of your face down cards, the black hats. The player who collected the most different types of hats gets the cookie, which is worth 5 points. Then you count points for your favorite hat. This is the hat type that matches the one card you had left in your hand. You add the value of the cards of that type in your collection, and then subtract the value of the card in your hand. You can get a lot of points here, or if you're not careful, negative points.
Then each team adds their individual points together, and the team with the most points is the winner.
When you play with 2 or 3 players, you don't have teams, so you'll just have your individual scores. You also have a different optional action. The leftover undealt cards form a deck. In addition to your regular turn, you can discard a card from your hand to draw a card from the deck.
I found myself drawing from that draw deck in the 2-player game more than I exchanged cards with my teammate in a 4-player game. I think I was just always wondering what was in the draw deck, and maybe those cards are better for me. And I was trusting in a 4-player game that my teammate would play the best cards. But now that I think about it, maybe I should trade more with my teammate and maybe we'd do better.
Yeah, there was one game where I made a great trade with my teammate, giving him the perfect card that he needed to save for his favorite hat at the end of the game. For me, I think the trickiest part in the game is getting the right cards on that board, because you're collecting lots of cards of certain colors and you're hoping that they're going to be worth a lot of points, but you are limited by what you have in your hand, so there's only so much you can do to manipulate that board. Should I grab this purple card to add to my collection? But it's in a pretty good spot right now. Or should I try and go for the 6 to help with scoring my favorite hat?
I personally really like the team play. You can help each other get certain cards on and off the board, or even lock cards in certain spots.
Yeah, there was one game where my teammate and I knew where all the pink cards were. So one of us put the pink 6 on the 6th spot, And we knew that it would be locked in because the other team didn't have any pink cards and there's nothing higher than a 6. So our pink cards were worth some major points.
We had fun trying to guess all the different fables and fairy tales represented on the cards while we were playing. Wizard of Oz, Peter Pan, Snow White, the Three Little Pigs, and more. And they all have different style hats too.
I think the Mad Hatter theme comes out in the gameplay with the board that's always changing and the colors are coming and going. You may think, oh, finally, everything's the way I want it. And then the next turn, the card you wanted is gone and it's all different.
Yeah, I remember one 2-player game I was playing against Melissa, and I was about to place a card in position 6, but right before my turn, she played in that, and now I didn't have the right cards to switch that card out of position 6.
Good timing on my part.
Really good.
I think there's also an interesting strategy with the black hat cards when you take a card from your hand and put it face down in your collection instead of playing to the board. The first time we played, I don't think we really took advantage of it, but then saw the value of keeping certain cards from your opponent so it never goes out on the board.
True.
Or even keeping the board state the same so you're not changing anything on your turn. And there is the fact that that card's going to be 1 point, and it does add to the variety of hats for that special scoring.
The production value in the game is great. The box is cool, it looks like a book, and it opens up like one too. I already mentioned the cards, but the art is very whimsical. The cookie is pretty realistic, and when you place it on the scoring napkin, it actually looks like crumbs are surrounding it. The score tile is perfect to add up all the scores quickly.
I like that the game plays quickly, but it still has interesting strategic choices to make. And it's relatively easy to teach. The hardest thing for people to remember, especially in the first game, is that the printed value on the cards in their collection is only going to matter for one set, the one that matches their favorite hat.
Yep.
For everything else, it doesn't matter whether you have high cards or low cards, it's just what the position is on the board. But there is a tiebreaker that goes to the person who has the lowest value hats in their collection.
Now, I like this card game, especially since it's a different twist on that set collection mechanic. And I like the theme. And I actually heard Thundergryph is going to be producing some more games in this Wonderland series. So if you're going to be at Gen Con 2019, I'd recommend going to their booth and getting a copy of hats. But if you're not going to be at Gen Con, that's alright. Look for it in retail soon. And we'd love for you to subscribe to Tantrum House.